Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our Sunday Gita class with some mantras. Om Parthaye Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayan Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Puran Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrit Varshinim Bhagavati Mashtadashadhyayane Am Tvam Anusandhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshine Namo Astute Vyas Vishal Buddhe Full Arvind Ayat Patra Netar येन तव्या भारत तैल पूर्णः प्रज्वलितो ज्ञान मया प्रदीपः प्रपन्न पारिजाताय तोत्र वेत्र एकपानये ज्ञान मुद्राय कृष्णाय गीता अमृत मधुये नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपाल नंदना पार्थो वत्सा सुधीर भोगता दुग्धम गीता अमृतम महत् वसुदेव सुतम देवम कंस चानूरमर्दनम देवकी परमानंदम कृष्णम वंदे जगद्गुरुम भीष्म द्रोणतटा जयद्रथ जला गांधार नीलोत्पला शल्य ग्राहवती कृपेन वाहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थाम विकर्ण घोर मत्क्रा दुर्योधन अवर्तनी सोतीर्णा खलु पांडवैरनदी कवर्तका केशवा पाराशरे वत्सरोजमलं गीता अर्थगंधोटकम नानाख्यानक केसरम हरि कथा संबोधन अबोधितम लोके सज्जन षटपदय रह रह पेपिये मानम मुदा भूयात भारत पंकजम कलिमल प्रध्वंसी न श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुम लंघ्यते गिरिम यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानंद माधवम यम ब्रह्म वरुण इंद्र रुद्र मरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यस्तवे वेदै सांग पद क्रमोपनिषदै गायन्ति यम सामगा ध्यानवस्थे तद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यम योगिनो यस्यन्तं न विदुषुर असुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः. We are trying to understand chapter 8, Akshar Brahm Yoga. And we ended our last week class with verse number 10, where Lord Krishna is telling us how to prepare ourselves to exit this body also. Or it can be taken as during our meditation when we are trying to rise above our ego also. How to do it? He says at the time of death, so whether the death of the physical body or death of the ego, with an unshaken mind full of devotion, by the power of yoga, fixing the whole prana between the two eyebrows, the bhrikuti, the seeker reaches the supreme Purusha. Okay, so the goal is to merge with the supreme. Whether it happens at the end of life or whether we can do it during our meditation, which is called samadhi. When our little soul merges with the supreme soul, he said this is the way to do it. It's a beautiful technique and we need to practice it. So that's why when we meditate also, what do? We sit straight. We focus on our breath. And we dissolve our mind and intellect, ego, into it, into that soul of ours. So practice. So now the next verse where we are starting today's class, he is giving an introduction to the meditation upon Om. And this also we do in our meditation on Om. Yat akshram ved vida vadanti vishanti yat yatya vit raga yat ichantaha brahmacharyam charanti tat te padam sangrahen pravakshe. Yat means which. Aksharam, imperishable, indestructible. Ved vida, the Veda knowers. Vadanti, declare or describe. Vishanti, enter. So after knowing, you got to enter also. And that's what the yoga is, entering. Yat means which, yatyaha, the self-controlled. Vitaragaha, free from attachment. Vit means gone. So this is verse number 11 of chapter 8. Vitaragaha, free from attachment. Yat means which, ichantaha, desiring. Brahmacharyam, literal meaning of brahmacharya is celibacy, but it also means it's a broader implication of brahmacharya is control over all your senses. Brahmacharya. Charanti, practice. Tat means that, te means to you, padam, goal, sangrahen, in brief. Parvakshe, I will declare. So Lord Krishna is saying that which is declared imperishable by the Veda knowers. Because this was part of Arjun's question. What is Akshar? What is imperishable? He says that which is declared imperishable by the Veda knowers. So he's not saying that I am saying it, even the Veda knowers are saying the same thing. That into which the self-controlled and the desire-freed enter. So this is the goal for the Veda knowers also. This is the goal for the people who say, I am a brahmachari, or if somebody says, I have let go of all my attachments. So this is the goal for everybody. So that into which the self-controlled and desire-freed enter. That desiring which brahmacharya is practiced. That goal I will declare to you in brief. So first of all, Lord Krishna is assuring a very easy path. He says this is an easy path on which many have tracked on. This is the meditation I'm telling you. Carefully avoid all the pitfalls and reach the goal. So he is emphasizing here that the very same imperishable truth can be realized. It's not may be realized, it can be realized. But first we have to learn how to free from attachments. Vitaragaha. Entire Gita is a song of renunciation. This sannyas word mentioned everywhere. In fact, even the last chapter says it's a moksha sannyas, renunciation. But this sannyas, renunciation, is not an uncreative renunciation. It is a very healthy detachment. Why it's healthy? Because it's through the right knowledge. See, one detachment is if somebody is living in a house and they get evicted from it. That's a sannyas from that house. But then another one is when you buy a bigger house, you detach from the smaller one automatically. So this is the right knowledge. We are detaching from something which is so temporary, even though it seems so alluring to us. But it is temporary. There's only limited pleasure in here. And the right knowledge is giving it to us. A yogi guru. That is higher. That is eternal. That is imperishable. That cannot be taken away from you, because once you enter into it, you become it. So that's why I said that this is a healthy detachment, not an uncreative sannyas. Renunciation of the desires is not a psychological suppression of the existing appetites or hungers, but a renunciation which takes place as a result of a natural blossoming of the intellect. And that's why this knowledge, this gyan, which a yogi guru is giving it to us, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, word by word, we are learning. So in this verse, Lord Krishna is describing the path of Yoga Mishra Bhakti, it's called, to attain the formless aspect of God. Yoga Mishra Bhakti. One day I'll talk about different kinds of bhaktis, but this is a Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So it's not a sad self-denial or self-punishment. Because sometimes we think that renunciation, it has, or sannyas has a negative connotation. No, it's not like that. So the term one freed from attachment is to be understood as a person who has grown out of his passionate attachment to the finite. Because the understanding is there that what is the goal of my life? Not the finite, but the infinite. So as a policy, it is advised that the least desire, the finite desires, we got to let go for the maximum and the greatest success on this path of knowledge. And in order to indicate the earlier stages of upasana, because in order to reach there are certain methods. Next two verses, he's telling us again. Number 12 and 13, we'll study together. Sarvadvarani sanyame mana hridi niruddhe cha मूर्धन आधाय आत्मना pranam astita yog dharanam. Sarvadvarani, all the gates. Sarvadvar. Sanyame, restraining, having controlled. Manaha, mind. Haridi, in the heart region. Niruddhe, confining, having controlled. Cha means and. Murdhan, in the head. Adhai, established, having placed. Atmana, of the self. Pranam, breath. Asthita, established in. Yog dharnam, practice of concentration, dharna. You remember 3 stages, dharna, dhyana, and samadhi. So that's why I said it's a preliminary steps he is reiterating for us. Even though he was talking about the samadhi also, dhyana also, but now he's taking us down to, hey, don't let go of the preliminary steps, even though you are learning the higher goals. Having closed all the gates, having confined the mind in the heart, having fixed the life breath in the head, engaged in the practice of concentration. Okay? The world enters the mind through the senses. That's why they are called dwar, the gates. The mind dwells upon these objects which have gone through these gates. And these gates are what? Our eyes, our ears, our nose, our touching, our tasting. These are the 5 dwars. Repeated contemplations, they create attachments. Automatically, they create further repetition of the thoughts in the mind. You met somebody, keep on thinking about that person, and keep thinking about that person. When will I meet that person again? It has taken housing in the mind. So restraining the senses is very essential aspect of locking the world out of the mind. And in Rishi Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, it's called Pratyahar. Open the gates only when you need them, when they're beneficial for you. Don't keep them open all the time. And I told you that verse 12 and 13, they go together. And let's read the Sanskrit verse of 13 also. Om iti ek aksharam brahm vyaharan mam anusmaran ya paryati tyajnan deham sayati parmam gatim. Om iti, thus, ek aksharam, one syllabled. Brahm, absolute truth. Vyaharan, uttering or chanting. Mam means me, anusmaran, remembering. Okay, so this Om is a sacred syllable representing the formless aspect of God. That's what Om is. If somebody asks us what Om is, we should be able to tell that. We can tell only if we know. So it's a sacred syllable. It's just a one syllable. And what does it represent? A formless aspect of God, which is Brahm. Ya means who, Pariyati departs, Tyajan, leaving, Deham, the body. Sa means he, Yati, attains, Parmam, supreme, Gatim, goal. Uttering the one syllabled Om, the symbol of Brahm, and remembering me. Okay, me. Me over here means God. He who departs, leaving the body, attains the supreme goal. So first we got to practice the concentration, and concentration he gave us the details in the previous verse, verse number 12. So now after concentration, how do we reach to the higher stages? So there are three necessary conditions we must fulfill as a meditator. And these are mentioned in a sequence. The first condition is controlling all the senses. All these apertures in our body, the porous skin, the ears, the nose, the eyes, and the taste buds. All of them, are they in our control? These are the 5 main gates through which the external stimuli reach the mental zone. I cannot emphasize enough of that, because that's where we are. Our attention just goes into the outside world through these apertures constantly. So this is the very first practice we need to have. Not only during meditation, a serious student, a serious seeker wants to do it otherwise too. Whatever I am seeing on my phone or on the TV or the book I'm reading or the place I'm going, the person I'm talking to, what is going inside me through that contact? We got to be careful about it. It's not just a 15 minutes of meditation and rest of the time do whatever you want to do. If you are careful, rest of the time, our meditation is all the time then. So this is what Lord Krishna is telling us. Controlling all the senses, to shut these 5 doors through discrimination. He is not saying that become a stone, a rock. Use your discrimination, which is a vivek, and vairagya, which is detachment. That is very first process. Do I need to go there? Do I need to talk? Do I need to eat this? Do I need to touch that? Yogi gurus, they don't even touch. Have you seen? They just give the grace like this. They don't want to touch. Touching is very powerful. So these are the 5 inlets through which not only the external world storms in, But after storming in, they agitate our mind. And the agitated mind is not a good mind for a yogi or for a yoga abhyasi. After that, the second practice, he says, confining the mind into the heart. Let's talk about that. Because we are supposed to control the mind, purify the mind. Because the mind is the instrument of emotions, feelings, and it is advised to be confined in the heart. Heart is a conceptual center. Here, they're not talking about the physical heart which pumps the blood. It's a conceptual center in the mind. And what kind of a center? Where all the positive and noble thoughts of love and tenderness, kindness and charity, devotion and surrender constantly are flowing. That kind of a mind is called a heart. This is what he says, confining the mind into the heart. Don't we often say that, I love you from my heart? दिल से प्यार करती हूँ. So it's not a physical heart we are talking about. We are talking about these kind of a positive, noble thoughts. So let the mind function only in the dignity of a status of the heart. That means mind which has all these positive emotions. Let me repeat again. Love and tenderness. Are we tender towards everybody? Can be kind to everybody? Can be charitable to everybody? Somebody might say, I don't have enough. How can I give? Giving is not only the money. Charitable. Where we are looking at the other person's viewpoint also. Where we are looking at other person's need also. And we are doing the best we can. Devotion and surrender. Constantly, if we are living with these kind of emotions, we can say that our mind is confined in the heart. Positive thinking brings into the mind the least amount of disturbance. The negative thoughts are those that bring into the mind stormy conditions of agitations and restlessness. So, meditator's mind should be positive, should be restful. There shouldn't be any storm in it. There are two directions given by rishis in the earlier stages of the sadhana. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with these two terms, Dham and the Sham. That's what Lord Krishna is talking about. The first step where he says control all the senses, that is a Dham. Indriyon ka daman karna. I'm sure you have all heard that. Control your senses, Dham. And Sham is that peace in the mind. And a mind which is confined in the heart can be, that is a Sham kind of a mind. So these two main qualifications necessary for every successful seeker who is striving on the path of knowledge. Because this is the knowledge needed, he says. When you have the knowledge, this kind of a knowledge, only then you can renounce all this. Only then you can let go of the lower and dwell in the higher. Let me tell you, the final examination of our meditation is the time of death. That is the examination. Sure, we do practice it when we do our meditation, our shavasana, we do that, but final examination is at the time of death. Those who are able to fix their consciousness upon the God, despite the intense pain of death, what happens? They pass this test. Just like in our schools and colleges, in order to pass, we had to do study. You remember those days? The same thing. This is the final examination. Are we ready for it? Because we don't know when the test is going to be the final exam. Those tests we knew. When they are coming, they were announced. This test, there's no announcement for it. We got to start preparing Brahma right now. Then he says the third step, drawing the Prana into the head. This is a reminder of what Lord Krishna has already hinted in verse 10. Withdrawing all the prans. It means the total withdrawal of the intellect from all its identifications with the lower. Okay? And then disassociating ourselves from all our perceptions, etc. So this has to do with the intellect. So all this, through the senses also, through the mind also, the emotions also, and the intellect also. And this is accomplished through a process of totally engaging the mind and intellect in the contemplation of the self. Yogsadhanam. In this condition of the mental and intellectual equanimity, the seeker becomes fit. That means you are only qualified. That doesn't mean that you have reached the goal. You are only qualified. It's almost like you are going into the examination hall with your proper tools, the paper and the pencil and everything else, whatever you need. So this is what it is. Then he says, in this condition of the mental and intellectual equanimity, when a sadhak becomes fit for chanting and meditating upon the monosyllable Om. Om. When we say Om from our mouth, it's not a monosyllable. It is a monosyllable when we really get connected with that vibration which is going on eternally everywhere. Then it's monosyllable. Otherwise, if we keep on saying Om, 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 the minute we say Ma, it's not a monosyllable. Monosyllable is when oh, this is going on everywhere. So by controlling all our senses, keeping the mind positive, bringing the intellect to that level, then connecting with this higher vibration. That's what he's talking about. He is fit for Om Upasana. A person is fit for Om Upasana only who can accomplish the biological, psychological, and intellectual conditions conducive to it. It's not just only physical body. Physical body is one of the apparatus, but then we have a mind also. Then we have an intellect also. They all got to be fit. And he says, he who departs leaving the body reaches the goal. So remember what I said earlier, at the time of death, but practice starts right now. So the aim of this sadhana, what Lord Krishna is telling us, is to purify the mind. And this is accomplished only by attaching the mind to the all pure God. Okay. Otherwise, if we attach, wherever we attach, the quality of that thing goes inside us. If we attach it to God, God is nothing but purity. God is nothing but divinity. If we see something godly, wherever we see divinity, attach it to that only. And he'll talk about that in the future chapters too. The mistake people make is they love God, but they also love and get attached to worldly people and objects. More often the objects, because objects don't react back. Like, and when we do that, what are we doing? We are like applying soap on one side of the cloth and dirt on the other side. So we are loving God also. We are cleaning with the soap also. But on the other hand, we are loving the world also. Finite, we are applying the dirt. So it's not just devotion, but exclusive devotion Lord Krishna is talking about. Ananya Bhakti. Exclusive devotion to God that makes him easily attainable. Otherwise, we are just keeping both the feet in two different boats, and we are not going anywhere. Even though we are trying very hard, but we are not reaching the goal. We have studied Narad Bhakti Sutras. It's a small little scripture, beautiful scripture about the bhakti. In the 10th verse, Naradji said, Anye ashraya nam tyagaha ananyata. Small verse which says, reject all other shelters and become exclusive to God. Naradji is saying it, Lord Krishna is saying it. But we listen to somebody. If this language, Sanskrit, doesn't make sense, how about Ramayana? Tulsidas ji Ramayana. What did he say? Ek bharoso, ek bal, ek aas vishwas. Only one support. He says, I have only one support, one strength, one faith, one shelter. And what is that? Shri Ram. You're familiar with this. Tulsidas ji's Ramayana. I'm sure all your life you've been reading it. So whether Naradji inspires us, Lord Krishna inspires us, or Tulsidas ji, there's so many great personalities there to inspire us. This condition of exclusivity has been repeated again and again and again. So the condition of exclusivity has been repeated in Gita. Chapter 9, we will see verse number 22. Ananya aisha chintayanto mam. Then again we'll see in the last chapter, Tam eva sharanam gacha. Mam ekam sharanam vraja. So Ananya, only God. Often we just have a dependency on more than one. We say, God, but in case God doesn't listen, let me have something else also in the back pocket. Or God in the back pocket, world in the front pocket. But God says, only me. I am there for you. So we have to have full faith in Him and Him alone. Okay? So in the next verse, and this is the only verse where Lord Krishna says that it's very easy. God is very easy to attain. Let's look at it. Yeah, we'll just go through the verse and then discuss it next week. Ananya cheta sattamya mam smarati nityasha tasya aham sulbha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. Ananya cheta, with the mind not thinking of anything else. Ananya. See, if you break down this ananya word, means not anya. Ananya, not anya. Only one. And there's another word which comes, anek. Anek means not ek. That means many. Right? Satatam, constantly, always. Ya means who, ma means me. Samarati, remembers. Nityasha, regularly, daily. Tasya, of him. Aham, I. Sulabha, easily attainable. Sulabha. Parth, Nitya yuktasya, constantly engaged. Yogina, of yogis. I am easily attainable. We often think that it's such a hard path. No, Lord Krishna says, I'm easily attainable. God is waiting for us to love Him alone. I am easily attainable by that ever steadfast yogi who constantly remembers me daily, not thinking of anything else. Oh, Parth. Nothing else we should remember this verse. Anytime there's a difficulty, remember that Lord Krishna himself said, God said that. Lord Krishna is called Yogeshwara Krishna. He says, I'm easily attainable. But you got to fulfill these conditions. Conditions of Ananya. Ananya. Okay? So you got to look within. Look within. Do we have that kind of a devotion? That kind of a love? Where we love God only? Do we remember? Or do we just get sidetracked here and there? So look within. This is the kind of a sadhana he's telling us. Intense, single-pointed self-application in prayers, worships, meditation is necessary. Because those are the training points. Then after that, take that into your worldly duties also. Never forgetting God. Never, ever. Because first once or twice a day, then 6 times a day, 12 times a day, every hour, then every minute. So devotee cannot afford to sink into the depths of these worldly sansara. Keep on afloat. with the name of God. Okay, so let's stop it here, and then we'll talk about more about this verse number 14 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om.